Welcome again to another partner profile with DiRōNA, and I'm really excited today. My good friend and a great partner of DiRōNA's, Fraser Nagy, is with us from TABLZ, all the way from Montreal, Quebec, I think today. Fraser, thanks for being with us. How are you?
Great to see you, Scott. Yeah, and calling from Montreal today, but about to catch a ride to New York this afternoon. So great to sit down with you this morning.
Wonderful. And no doubt you're traveling. I know things are busy for TABLZ. So tell us a little bit about, for those that may not know from DiRōNA, what is TABLZ? Where did it begin? How did you come up with the concept? And really the story behind TABLZ.
Yeah, absolutely. And Scott, I know a number of your partners are using TABLZ, using it successfully, and I know a number more are looking to join. And I think the story I'll tell quickly today is a story that I think almost every general manager, director of ops, and owner and CFO is likely going to hear over the next 12 and 24 months. And Table started from a very simple premise. I've worked in restaurants my whole life. My first job was when I was 13 at a banquet golf course, bussing food for weddings and private events. But I really got my start through fine dining. I was a maitre d' at a fantastic restaurant for 3 years, really learning the trade, learning the tricks of working at that level, and of course, great wine, all that comes with fine dining. And every single day at that restaurant, I used to get one, if not several, phone calls. Hey, it's our birthday, it's our anniversary, we're a business group coming in. Can we have your best table? Can we have the window table? Can we sit by the bar? Can we have champagne or flowers or our wine decanted before we arrive? The amount of requests we would get every single day, but most of them were about the table selection, where they wanted to sit. And I think, so you and I have had this conversation before. Your definition of the best table and my definition of a best table are likely two different things. Not always. I know you and I both, love like good restaurant people sitting at the bar. But the problem at the time when I was an 18-year-old and 19, 20-year-old host is I'm just playing absolute, casino here, just randomly guessing, playing that, what Open Table would be referred in Resi and all these great reservation management systems. We call that table roulette, just auto assigning and guessing where you might want to sit. And that really is why we started TABLZ, is because I think there's a much better way in hospitality to do that first step of hospitality. And why ruin an incredible meal when the expectations of some of our best diners aren't met simply by putting them in the wrong seat?
No doubt. And we've all had a bad dining experience, mostly because it starts with us being sat at a table near the kitchen, near the washroom, and it's just not pleasant. I think it's fantastic. You're the first out of the gate, and maybe the only out of the gate with this, because it's just like getting a bad seat on an airplane, and that's why airlines allow us to upgrade and choose better seats to have a better experience. Whether it's 3 hours, or your hour flight today from Montreal to New York, at least we're able to pick and upgrade to a better experience, and no doubt that's key for diners, especially in the fine dining category. So, what are the benefits of a DiRōNA restaurateur? What is it they're looking for, and they can solve with something like this? And I know you've got lots of great insights into this.
It starts with the basic foundation that, fortunately for your partners, they don't have to change anything. And I think it's been decades now of a lot of adding tech, subtracting tech, trying to even figure out if tech helped our restaurant in the first place. I'm sure you've had long nights at drinking martinis with some of your partners where this system we implemented didn't even really work in the end. So first things first, you keep your reservation system. If you like Resi, if you like Seven Rooms, if you like Yelp, if you like Open Table, we don't have a pony in that race. You pick the system that's best for you. I've personally worked with most of them in front of a house, and they all have their pros and cons. So you keep the one you like, and we just layer on top of that. As we'll jump into sort of a demo here, guest fulfillment in this category is just an extension of your reservation and then in-house. So it overlaps those two experiences, and that's really important. The second best part, it doesn't cost the restaurants anything because guests are willing and actually eager to do these upgrades, and they totally understand that exchange of value. So, we have restaurants charging as little as $5 for a table, to 20 to 100. We have a $200 upgrade table. Every single restaurant's different. Every single table's different, and every single night of the week. And the best part is we just share in that new profit. So It syncs with your current reservation system. There's no cost, and it's just, financial upside. But the number one important part, of course, is the benefit to the guest.
Well, like you're saying, guest fulfillment. There's nothing more important or better too. So before you go into examples, let me lay this out in layman's terms. I guess best of all, a patron looking to go dining can go to the website of a restaurant, and there will be a virtual walkthrough, let's call it, of the restaurant, where they're able to look at the tables available during the hour they wish to be there, take their date, take their family, whatever it may be, grandma's birthday, and they're able to select the actual table that they're going to sit at that night, and maybe a bit of an upgrade. But certainly, if it's a you're about to propose to your girlfriend, or it's mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary, you want to make sure you're not at the table by the kitchen. This allows the patron to select that exact table with a bit of an upcharge that night, just like an airline seat would be, and give them that guest fulfillment, that experience that they can't get just booking a table and showing up and, like you're saying, playing restaurant roulette. Correct?
Exactly. It's as simple as that, and that individual pre-upgrades, and that information's synced to the reservation system. So in times it's, as you described, a specific seat. I want that booth in the corner. I want that chef's counter. Or guess what? I just want one of the 5 tables along the window. And I don't need that specific one. I just would like to be along that railing, or I don't want to be over in that section. So, over this last year, we've gotten really smart with table optimization configuration, and actually enabling restaurants to segment these sections as well, that have become really, really successful. Because again, we have partners that could do anywhere from 100 covers a night to 1,000 covers a night, but might only have 5 window seats or these couples. So how do you democratize who gets that table? Certainly, you want to keep a couple back for your super VIPs. Absolutely. The intent of tables is not to sell the whole restaurant also. So what we like to say is, we're not after the super VIP crowd, the private jet crowd, but every guest that flies first class, comfort plus, or wants extra leg room, roughly that 19% of the plane, it's the exact same demographic that is looking to elevate their dining experience. And what we're really excited about is we really nailed this table upgrade and that type of hospitality. But from all of our operator interviews, most are keen, if not all, on large group bookings and e-commerce pre-ordering. So how can we further make that experience more personalized for the guest? Someone that would want to maybe have a bottle of champagne, a nice glass of, or a bottle decanted ahead of time, or have flowers, balloons, car. There's so many things. I remember getting requests every single day that were just ending up in open table notes, and it was really hard to action those things. Expecting a host to figure out how to get flowers for that couple on their anniversary, these type of things, but they're demanded all the time. So when we look at fulfillment, begins with the seat, but there's a lot more that's going to be happening this year regarding what that means to each restaurant, and each restaurant will have different types of requests based on their style.
So show some examples. I know you have some DiRōNA awarded restaurants already on the system. Can we let's get right in there and show them,
Absolutely.
show these viewers what it is exactly TABLZ does.
We'll start with Gino and Giorgetti, because they've been a fantastic partner of ours now for over a year and a half, believe it or not. And our TABLZ is a new company. Guest fulfillment is a new category. And I just want to say this: it's very tough to be the first. So partners like Gino and Giorgetti's to do this with us from the beginning, we're so grateful for that. And what an incredible family in Chicago, and it really shows in their team. So as you mentioned, Scott, begins on the website. They have their global reservation button here. They also have another reservation button there. However you configure a website, the important factor here is, instead of just automatically kicking you to, let's say, the open table budget or open table widget or the Resi widget, what happens now is Gino and Giorgetti have configured this web app with us, where it clearly asks the guest a question. Would you like to upgrade your seat and personalize your dining experience? Or no, thank you. You don't care. You just want to make a normal reservation. No problem. Use the normal system. And at several points along this journey, we're actually telling you, go to open table if you don't want to upgrade your seat, or you're not looking for these expanded experiences. But for a vast majority of guests, they do. You can select your guest count, select your date, And from there, it will show you different availability. It looks like they've already sold out, as you can sort of see some of the reds and greens and yellows. It's just showing different levels of availability. I'm going to go to jump just to next Wednesday for fun and see the different options. Looks like they've already have several of those 7 p.m. slots taken because we only have 5 o'clock left. And in this case, we'll be able to walk through the dining room and see some of these availabilities. So obviously a really beautiful experience to showcase this unbelievable, old school restaurant that's storied in history. And from there, you'd be able to select a couple of these key tables. They famously have their Frank Sinatra booth that has done very, very well for them and have generated them thousands and thousands of dollars of additional revenue this year. And, we couldn't be more thrilled to see that type of success. And in this case, at this time of the year, by the way, again, every table's priced differently, every day of the week's priced differently, and seasonality. We're in the middle of January here, and this is their sort of January pricing midweek, $20 to upgrade to the specific seat.
So let's talk about, before we move on to other examples, a location like Gina Giorgetti. How did they begin with you? Is it a big upfront cost? Obviously, there's photography here involved into it, the engineering and design to having this added to a website, the revenue that's generated through these patrons purchasing this. How do the numbers work, and where's the benefit to the restaurateur?
Yeah, what's so important here is that we come in with these 3D cameras. We scan each restaurant, obviously, depending on size, will take from 30 minutes to an hour and a half if you're a big multi-level restaurant. But those costs are actually paid even up front, so you don't have to get out your checkbook, because we use a formula of using that actual table upgrade to even pay for the onboarding. So this is what's made this also even even more successful for restaurants, where they can onboard quickly, move forward with our process, and we can have you live within a week. So for Gina Giorgetti, beyond that, we're just sharing in that table profit upgrade. It's a very simple formula. The restaurant takes 70% of that $20, and we take 30%, and there's no monthly costs. So we're just sharing on the upside, the total, no marginal cost, no cost of goods of $20. So that $14 they would make is worth a lot more than selling some of the steaks and selling some of the wine that has some really high cost of goods.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to find those margins for anything in the restaurant industry. So that's fantastic. No upfront cost to the restaurateur. They reach out, they sign up. Is there a minimum term contract, 12 months, a couple of years? How do they work in something like that?
We certainly, in our official terms and conditions, 3 months is all we ask to really give this a try with us. Certainly we also know that for certain restaurants, we're not looking to change any of your service. And if there's this real friction point for whatever reason, we understand we're not here to handcuff our partners. This really is a partnership. We only make money if you make money in this arrangement. So, really these terms and conditions aren't like a standard agreement you're signing with your point of sale system or your reservation management system, where you're locked in for a certain amount of period and where other systems are trying to compete on price. That's not this type of relationship. So our sole goal is to optimize your dining room for flip times, prices, and to fulfill those guest requests and lessen your management burden and your host and hostess burden at the front door. So that's how we look at this partnership. Certainly there's a cost associated with that scan that we'd of course love, we recoup in that terms and conditions. But beyond that, it's not a marriage you have to commit to for years and years and years and have no exit strategy. This really, really works for certain restaurants, and those are who we're hyper focused on working with.
Right. So restaurateurs, let's look at it this way for a second. Restaurateurs that might not be tech savvy, it is up to the restaurateur to add the price of Friday night, 7 o'clock, this table. Well, that's $100 because it's our greatest table and it's oceanfront. The restaurateur actually logs in and adds this number to this table. They don't need to deal with third party, or they're not reaching out to you every time they're changing pricing. This is something that's really simple, I believe, from there on their login system to your portal. Is that correct?
Sort of. So we actually go a little bit of a step further, and we, in that onboarding step, as we scan that restaurant, we work with both, your operators on the team, let's say your general manager, your director of ops, in addition to the ownership, to identify those key tables. And again, think of it again, we're looking for 20% of your guests want to upgrade. We're looking for that 15 to 20% of specific real estate. And we actually help price that with you, because this is the first time anyone's really had to think about this. Oh shit, Scott, right? How much is that oceanfront table worth? How much is that famous booth in the corner worth? And it can range. It can worth. We've had instances where we've underpriced, and when we actually doubled the price, we sold more tables because of that perceived value that we're so trained as consumers to see. And we've seen also instances where we priced too high. And when we brought it even down from, let's say, 40 to 35, we increased the number of tables. So we're getting really smart at pricing psychology, and we help configure all of that with the restaurant at the very start. We look at data, we work with them, and we're actually proactively updating prices with that partner. So when we mean this thing is like, it's just humming along without really, in a good way, tables works is when you don't really hear from us in many ways. It's always being inputted into your system. Scott, let's say you book that VIP booth, that Sinatra table, you will show up in Open Table at Gino Giorgetti's in that, identified as a tables VIP that has upgraded, and their staff knows it. It's not like we're shifting the configuration of their dining room. It's those same two key tables for them in that main dining room, their patio in the summer, and then now they're also adding, looking to add large group bookings to capture guests really between 7 and 16 guests. This seems to be the number. Anything that's too small for a private events coordinator, and we know that they get bogged down with so many requests for 10 tops. And how difficult is it to book a 10 top, a 12 top in cities like New York, Chicago, Miami, never mind, smaller market tourist markets, but big nonetheless, the New Orleans, the Napa Valleys of the world. Good luck trying to get your birthday, your parents' anniversary party, for whatever reason, that we don't have time to explain. The long history of why open table in these systems are configured just to sit sort of 6 and 7 guests and below. There's certainly an opportunity to help those restaurants as well. So we're really there along to hold the hand, but ultimately the system is best, is working when it's best configured and is just running itself.
Wonderful. Now you mentioned some locations there. So DiRōNA awarded restaurants, Alaska to Mexico, Hawaii to Bermuda. You're covering everything in between, correct? You've taken this now and scaled this.
Correct. Yeah, we're across 11 states now. We're in Canada, and we're launching in Dubai next week as well. So this really is now going international. You can definitely put your restaurant hat on and imagine the markets in which has an unbelievable demand, and that can be in the big cities, as we know. That the Los Angeles is the New Yorks of the world, but it can also be an incredible food hubs and destinations. We showed off Gino Giorgetti in Chicago, but an incredible partner that jumped on after your last video was Joel Palmer, and Chef Chris and his family are an incredible family, storied in history as well, just like the family and Gino Giorgetti, but similarly or in a very different way, very different property. Right here, they are a country estate in Oregon. They don't have that downtown traffic. This is a real destination restaurant. So when Chris and his team were looking at tables as a solution, they really wanted to maximize their season, their summer season. A huge amount of tourists venture out to this beautiful food region of the world. They have an incredible history of foraged mushrooms and mushroom recipes, and they wanted to make sure again that they were capturing that traffic at peak season. So similar flow from their website. We can select our group size, but I'll just jump right on in. You can see the difference here between shooting at night with Gino Giorgetti's versus during the day to capture that sunshine. These beautiful tables by the window, for example, showcasing, this unbelievable estate and this this classic estate home. So, all different shapes and sizes again. They have an expansive patio that is set up during the summer that is, you can see, turned off. So just showing some of the tables in the dining room with some of the more, pretty views of the front and back of the property.
Brilliant. Looks fantastic. Any other examples you want to cover today? I know we chatted earlier about some of the others that may not be DiRōNA awarded. Is there anything you want to highlight or show some new features that tables may have?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I've referenced a few times the demand from users, from restaurants and guests alike for large group bookings, and I think there's a property in New York that I wanted to show off today. The Parlor Room, part of Fox Hospitality, a beautiful place in Midtown. And I think so fascinating for a number of different reasons. One is that let's say classically restaurants are busiest at 7 p.m. on a Saturday. Well, that's not always the case in Midtown Manhattan. Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays after work, those are busier than often a Saturday night. So even when we look to configure their restaurant, we take all of these things into account. What's fantastic about Parlor Room, in addition to how beautiful as you'll see, is that we can seat guests from 1 to 16. Again, this is something that isn't configured through Resi. We're really looking at there to help them with these large group bookings, in addition to their private events, which they do a lot of. So if you click 10 guests, there's actually 2 different tables available, which is only one at 7 o'clock, it looks like. But we'll show those 2 different options. So they have, again, this beautiful dining room, but up here in the study, one of these incredible private rooms between 10 and 16 guests. And again, there's minimums included in this. There's deposits included if you would like to configure that. But if for guests for this table, $50, and you can guarantee yourself this spot. If not, you're not. There's multiple other areas that you might be put in this restaurant. We're also increasingly encouraging a beautiful amount of content that's being put in here, from videos to food and tableside service. So all of this content is really adding to the experience of tables as well.
If any restaurateurs have been hesitant, is because they've been in business multiple generations. Mom and dad started the restaurant, grandma and grandpa started the restaurant. We've never charged extra for a table. I always take it back to airlines. I wouldn't think of getting on a plane without either trying to be in the exit row to get more leg room, or how much is it today to go to business class? Can we afford it? Is it something we want to upgrade to? I couldn't imagine getting on a plane and playing plane roulette and ending up beside the washroom. So I what is some hesitation, if any, restaurateurs have, and how do you work in them overcoming it? Because this is nothing but a win-win for them, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. We love referencing the airline industry because of how far they have gone with customizations of that experience. But sports, car rentals, hotels, ballet, you can't even go to the movies now. Like, you get to pick your seat. And I'll say this, although you definitely don't want to be at the front cranking your neck or the way back, where you sit in a restaurant has far more implication on this, on your experience than maybe even the way you sit, because the planes just face forward, movie theaters just face forward. That's not how dining rooms are designed. So, Scott, you hit the nail on the head. New things are scary. What new thing, from Airbnb to Uber to any technology that's come around, didn't have that first, like, oh man, I don't know if my gut feels this right, and that notion of charging for this hospitality, could be scary for some individuals. But fortunately, there's two parts to this. We're the last industry to do this. Consumers have been trained; they're looking for this, and it's completely voluntary. So no one is firstly forced to upgrade. If they don't want to, they just use Open Table and they just use Resi, and they use the thing that they've been using for the last 25 years, which is that table roulette. So the choice is the diners. It's not the choice of the restaurant to force you. So that's, I think that just flipping that is so important optically, because people want that seat. And what we're learning now is that they are more than willing to pay between 10 and 15% of their check average to do that. So think of it in very simple terms. Scott, you and I are going to go out for dinner tonight. Let's say we spend $200, $300. We're more than comfortable spending 10%, $20, $30 to guarantee that we get the experience we're looking for. When we're looking at our economics, that seems to be a bit of a no-brainer for this demographic. So unlike business class, that can be like 4 times the price of the base ticket, this is just 10% maybe additional to your overall experience, but that 10% has no cost of goods. So it's very different when you look at your math at the end of service. When we're a business of margins, that's the big difference. So, we totally understand if you're not ready today for this, that's totally okay. But fulfillment and these guest requests won't stop coming in. They've been a part of our restaurant existence for as long as restaurants have been around. And certainly, we found a solution here that is reducing the burden on the front of house teams, on the management teams, and of course, improving guest experience. And the fact that restaurants can take some extra coins with them. As I know you've drank the punch. I'm certainly have, but it's not everyone's going to get there right away on the first day.
Right. So I will tell you from a personal feeling on this. I would probably choose a restaurant who has added tables to their system, allowing me to choose where Kelly and I, or Kelly and I and Josh, are a family event where we are actually sitting that night over going to a restaurant and not knowing where we'll be. I have similar food, similar ambiance, similar locations. I would likely choose the one where I can spend the $20, $30, making sure I'm in the right seats. Even more if it's a really important wedding anniversary, I would likely choose that restaurant over one that didn't have it. Let me touch on something. You've said something, and I've been in this industry over 30 years, hospitality, and numerous, sectors of it. Guest fulfillment. You've really nailed something there. And I think elaborate on that, because I don't think a lot of restaurateurs have really put that notion through their mind and gone, how do it's about a guest experience, but fulfillment is taking it an extra step. Elaborate on that, because I think you put some thought into this.
I have, and thank you for the thoughtful question. Because even that word is something that I've really considered over the years. And I like to put it this way. So many of these terms in our industry were just invented, right? Before 1998, July 2nd, when Open Table launched, there was no such thing as reservation management systems, right? That was just an invented our like word. We just had the book. That's why it's called the book, right? There was no such thing as point of sales systems, inventory management systems, and all these systems now, again, for better or worse, have either made our restaurants, far, far more productive, and made us more money, and some have slowed us down. There's no, restaurants are their own beast. But fulfillment, again, it's one of these concepts that it's always been there, right? People have always, since the dawn of time, have come into a restaurant and said, I want to sit over there. I want my wine chilled. I want balloons and flowers delivered for this special occasion. So, I've just thought about it over these years as we've, of course, as you can imagine, hundreds, if not thousands of conversations with restaurants, and the hundreds that now use tables across North America and now abroad. So this concept where do those fulfillment notes go? We know the famous stories of the 11 Madison Parks of the world and their Dreamweaver systems, and it's such a beautiful story. But we know it exists in the tip of a pencil in terms of how many operators could actually roll out a system where you're taking manual guest notes on every single guest. It's just not going to happen, right? And for the average restaurant that isn't in this very rare class, we can't scale that out. And the best way to describe it is, the last two restaurants I was managers of, we had 76,000 covers a year and 32,000 covers a year. And roughly in both cases, I would know whether it was 32 or 76,000, probably my 200 super VIPs. Like I knew Madame Suzanne and John Smith that would come in. I would remember as a manager, she liked her coffee this way. He liked his martini this way. I had one guest, I would forever remember him. He was a drinker, double goose, 3 olives every time. It was a drink. So, these are the things that a good manager knows and remembers. But after those 200 guests, there's probably 6,000 to 8,000 in a year that are premium diners, this class of premium diners that I don't know. I'm not going to be able to know how they take their martini every day. I'm not going to know that they prefer the window seat or that cozy booth. So where does the hospitality happen for those guests? And I think it's there that we are focusing as a company, and we're focusing with our partners, because those are the 18, 19% that drive the economy, that pay more and spend more than the average coach passenger that is just a flyby of the night, sort of maybe, tourists can be very good, but I'm getting at that. Those once in a while guests that come through, these premium diners are what drive the industry. And we've really lacked the tools to service them. Their requests often end up in guest notes. And if we're lucky in Open Table, and for the vast majority of restaurants now who aren't even answering their telephones anymore, talk about AI and all these systems that are coming in. How do you even communicate? How do you even call a restaurant and say, it's my anniversary and I'd really love to do something special? That conversation is almost being eliminated completely now, but it doesn't mean that need and that desire goes away. And I think restaurants that invest into guest fulfillment are only going to win. And we see this now as the industry does diverge. It's either into crazy fast casual, where it's all about, the rapidity of your economics, or, we see the restaurants that are winning globally. It's because they're continuing down this path of improving guest experiences. And that's how they can justify prices and margins so that we can keep up with inflation and rent and all the rest that isn't going away.
No, certainly lots of challenges through the industry these days. So I think we've just excited every DiRōNA restaurateur out there. What are the next steps? What can they do to get involved, learn more about tables or get involved with tables? What do you want them to do right now?
Go to the website, tablz.com, tablz.com, depending on where you are in the world. You'll see right there, you can, get in touch with us. Scott, I know you'll provide out my email personally for owners and directors. I'm always available. Growing group of amazing restaurants that I communicate with daily and weekly. And of course, we have our team here that will help you out. So contact at tablz.com. So multiple ways to reach us, Instagram, any way you want. Very straightforward, as we talked about today. The very next step, we send that camera crew in, and we just need a beautiful, clean dining room, whether you want it shot at sunset, sunrise, nighttime, daytime. Really, we capture that ambiance, and we go from there. We can have you up and live within a week.
Wonderful. My friend, always a pleasure to chat with you. We have nothing but great belief in this. This is, I think, the small margins involved right now in the restaurant industry. Restaurateurs are looking for that extra edge, that revenue source. This is an incredible way that this applies directly to the bottom line. And I don't think there's anything better to move that needle for restaurateurs. So thank you for spending the time with us today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Fraser Nagy, everybody from TABLZ. Safe travels today to New York, and we'll talk soon.